Hi everybody and welcome to today's show. My name's Aiden Boast. I'm the manager for the North Shore division. And this week we are joined by 𝘁cie𝗱𝘆'𝘀, workplace neuroinclusion and employee neuroempowerment specialist, to unpack the importance of building a supportive and neuroinclusive workforce environment. Also on today's show, national tension. How does the majority of Australian workforce feel about AI? We'll explore our latest jobs and opportunities across Australia as well. And lastly, expected flexibility. Would your employees quit for a better work-life balance? So neuroinclusion is no longer just a buzzword or a box to tick. It's becoming essential to how we define truly inclusive workplaces. With around 12% of Australian workforce identifying as neurodivergent, according to the ABS, this isn't a small or niche group. As awareness grows, businesses are beginning to recognise the importance of fostering a neuro-inclusive environment. But what does that actually look like? To discuss further, we are joined today by 𝘁cie𝗱𝘆'𝘀, workplace neuroinclusion and employee neuroempowerment specialist. Hi, 𝘁cie, how are you?
I'm good, Aiden. How are you? Thank you so much for having me today.
It's great to have you on, so I really appreciate your time. So I wanted to ask you a few questions. So first off, could you tell us a bit more about yourself and your experience in and around neuroinclusion space?
I sure will. Thank you. Well, I guess my story is an interesting one, but it's one that I hear all the time from so many people that I meet in the work that I do. Um, I was a late diagnosed mother of a son who was diagnosed when he was only 2.5 with autism and ADHD. And I went on his journey with him as a mum and a carer to support him in identifying his genius and to find what his innate brilliance was within him. But while I was on that journey, I started to see a lot of similarities between who he was and the different things that the difficulties that the therapist that he was working with told me that he may encounter in his
Mm.
future. And I started to think, wow, well, gosh, he just sounds just like me. And the penny dropped, and I went for a diagnosis myself, an assessment, and received my own diagnosis, which then gave me a huge realization of who I was, my sense of self, and it identified to me the difficulties that I had experienced while I was in employment. And I just got to thinking, wow, I've done a lot of research and support around working with Daniel and how to support him, as well as I was at that time a corporate trainer. I worked in leadership and I had a background in the psychological assessment of human condition and how people work and why we do things. So I started to connect all of the studies and trainings that I had done, and I developed what is now my business, NeuroEmpowerment Solutions. So I became a neurodiversity in the workplace consultant, where I would go into businesses, work with them, support them in identifying the challenges that they were experiencing in not being equipped to support people who thought differently.
Mm.
So it was a passion mission because I thought, well, Daniel will be in the workforce in 10 years. And I really don't want him to enter a workforce like the one that I left, where I felt like I didn't belong, or
Yeah.
I was, not able to be myself. That I had to mute myself, or to mask, or to hide, and therefore not able to really kind of embrace creativity or innovation or opportunity for the businesses that I worked for.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, what does neuroinclusion actually mean and why is it so important in today's workforce?
Well, that's a really good point. So you spoke about neurodiversity, and I guess to go to that word specifically, neurodiversity is a normal, natural variation in how brains process information. So as a collective group, all humans are neurodiverse, which means we all have different ways to process information, how we take it in and how we output it, just like any type of computer. Um, but then I suppose where it separates is that the world of work and the education system, the school system, um, it's all been developed to support one way of thinking and
Mm.
doing things. And we would say, essentially the typical way that people function or work. Now, I guess it's fair to say that that is changing a lot. And there is no typical way of doing anything anymore. I bet you would agree with that, Aiden, that things are changing in the world of work because
Yeah.
of going back to work, remote working, etc. But for the neurodivergent individuals, for us to thrive, and we say divergent because we diverge, our brains diverge from what's considered to be typical or normal. We do things differently, which is
Yeah.
where innovation comes from. We challenge the status quo. We look at things and we think, but why? And we ask questions because we try and figure out the logic, and we really really deep dive into subjects that are of a special interest to us.
I find as well, maybe it is because of COVID, working from home, because it's been so different. People are then discovering, oh, actually, I've changed up my work, um, I guess my routine, and I'm now starting to see a different way of how I work, and it's actually paying off. So I don't know if that's.
Yes, that's a
Mm.
thing, like that by doing things the way that you were prescribed to do, and it just may not have suited you, or it just didn't fit. It's
Mm.
about, and that goes to the point, neuro inclusion. It's about creating workplaces that support everyone, that it's not
Yeah.
just a you must do it this way, or that's not how we work around here, you have to fit the mold or you have to fit in. It's creating
Mm.
workplaces that are inclusive so that you get the best from your employees, and so
Yeah.
that employees can bring their best selves to work every day, that they're not, like, to your point, working in a way that doesn't really support them to do work in the best way that they can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say? We've obviously talked about the positive impacts as well. So, I'm keen to hear if there's any more positive impacts you've seen in the workplace where employers have included that. But what misconceptions do employers or colleagues often have about neurodiversity in the workplace?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, I guess there's a few, because there's the individual misconception. So that
Mm.
can be targeted towards the person. So it's a big deal to get diagnosed. Like, so we would have, different levels of neurodiversity in the workplace. We will have people like me who are late diagnosed. There's a huge rise in adult diagnoses that is coming from, like my story, from people whose children are being diagnosed, and then recognizing that this is genetic. And I'm also just like my son or my daughter. And then we have people who are carers. So they may not be necessarily neurodivergent themselves, but they're living and breathing this every single day. They're bringing their children to therapy. They're working through it. They're getting the phone calls from school to say, you need to come and pick Billy up because there's been an incident at school. And those individuals are quite often on edge, and they're working really hard because work is a great outlet, and being able to focus on yourself in that instance. We have people who've been early diagnosed, so like my son Daniel, who may have been diagnosed from they were quite young, or maybe later in their teens. So they have a greater sense of self. And I suppose that the different people, and then we have, I suppose, the fourth kind of area within the workplace will be LGBTQI plus community, and trans and non-binary individuals, who there's a huge percentage of people who fit into neurodiversity as well. And it's that search for the sense of self. Who am I? What am I? And if you've been, to use the word lightly, gaslit by medicine throughout your life, and you've been told, oh no, you just have depression, or you just have anxiety, and then you fall into that category. You might get on medication for those things, but deep down inside, you're like, I don't think that this is it. I don't feel as
Mm.
though this is actually, fixing what I'm feeling inside. And the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves is that sense of understanding yourself, because when you know who you are, you can see what you do well. you can see what challenges you, and you can see where you can improve, or what you need to do to be the best version of yourself, or where your limits are, where your boundaries are that you can't push beyond.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't yet have that. They're on a journey. And in the workplace, the misconceptions can be, oh, everyone has ADHD nowadays. Just, you've been fine forever. Just get on with it. Just,
Yeah.
just suck it up, buttercup. Like, you're all right. And then I suppose the next kind of set of misconceptions will be, it's expensive to provide supports or adjustments.
Yeah.
And a third set would be, which is an interesting one that I heard in a training that I ran recently. An individual said, but now, is it not unfair to everyone else in the workplace if I provide the neurodivergent individuals with supports? And what about
Yeah.
everyone else? And they don't
Mm.
get supports. And then does that make the landscape unfair? So I suppose to dispel those myths, the first one being, it's that understanding of your sense of self, because when you know who you are and the supports that you need, you can ask for them, and you should ask for them.
Yeah.
The second one being, not everybody is on the spectrum. Not everybody is, you may not look autistic and you can still be autistic, which is, amazing, right? There is no luck. It just is. And when we say things like that, it really diminishes people's sense of self, what they're experiencing, and who they are
Yeah.
within themselves. So, of course, can cause them to mask even further, because we have to remember, a lot of people have been masking to just show up as who they think their employers or their coworkers
Yeah.
expect them to be.
Be a normal
Um,
person.
a normal person, essentially. Yeah. Just kind of quietening down those quirks and the behaviors. And, I guess we all do that to some extent in the workplace.
Mhm.
But it's that total full on masking. I can't be me. And
Yeah.
so therefore you're not bringing out your strengths either, because you're kind of hiding and cloaking all of the goodness
Yeah.
about you. And then I suppose the third thing being that it's going to be expensive. It's not
Mhm.
actually. There, most of the supports, and I have a workbook that I'm going to give away that has lots of great tips in it for anybody who's listening. They the supports, most of them are free. The number one support that I get asked when I work as a coach with the neurodivergent individuals in workplaces is written instructions. They would just like for their manager to give them written instructions as to exactly how they would like them to do the tasks that they're asking them to do.
Mm.
So that's a time investment for a manager, but also you have to think about the time that you put in to put those written instructions means the person can follow the instructions, do it effectively and correctly, and then not make a mistake so you don't have to go over it again.
Yeah. So
So
there's things people
yeah.
can do now, like for leaders and for companies. They don't have to spend money. There's steps that they can take.
Yeah, like so much of it is coming from the heart, Aiden. It's just being empathetic and listening, and not trying to make everyone to fit into, the mold that the workplace is, to meet people where they're at and see where their aspirations are, where they would like to go, and guide them and support them to getting there. It's really no different for a neurodivergent individual than it is for a neurotypical, as we say, for all employees, because anything that you do to support to I suppose my fourth point, anything that you do to support a neurodivergent employee, you can do that with your neurotypical employees too. You don't just have to pigeonhole people and say, who's autistic or who has ADHD. Because the reality is, if you provide me with a support for my ADHD, it might work for me today, but it's all based on my spiky profile, which
Yeah.
means that on any given day, depending on the stimuluses in my environment, the noise, the sensitivities, my emotional regulation, deadlines and stress, and so on and so forth, I may behave differently. And
Mm.
and most people do. So on any given day, what's happening inside of you, or how you take in information, how you can digest information, it can be different.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, not saying somebody's at this level all the time, or all people who have ADHD require this support. it is an individual basis and it's a case by case basis. So what the best thing that managers can do to create a neuro inclusive environment is to listen, to ask questions. And in order to do that, so that you get honest responses, you must create a psychologically safe working environment for everyone.
Yeah.
Because people, if they feel like they trust you, they'll share with you. But if people feel as though, if I tell you that I have autism, you're going to judge me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to have an opportunity to get a promotion. I'm not going to be seen for my for my skills. I'm going to be thought less of. And it's about being able to dispel that kind of thinking from the neurodivergent employee's perspective, that they can trust that they will be supported, that the by disclosing or by sharing, you will be provided with adjustments, some of which don't cost anything. And also, Job Access has free, well, they provide, I think, $1,500 worth of funding to businesses and organizations, to the individual, to support them to do their role. So there's a bit of a process that goes with that. But if you have a business that you just can't afford, but you want help, Job Access is a wonderful outlet for that too. And I'll put a link to that in the workbook. But there are many ways. Sometimes we just say, oh, I'm putting it in the too hard basket and we're just going to leave it there. But if we're not doing different things to help people to bring out the best in who they are and what they are, we're not going to be able to harness the innovation and the creativity and the ideas and the opportunities that people can bring to the workplace when they feel safe and supported and secure in the work that they do.
That's great. Well, I hope this conversation brings awareness to people who may be identifying some of the traits and that the fact that they can get help. And I really hope employers as well will see this and see that they can take action now. So thank you so much, Aisling, for your insights. And people can reach out to you on your socials, LinkedIn, social medias.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. LinkedIn. I'm very active there. Instagram. And I'm so glad to help and just to provide a little snapshot of information that might help change somebody's perspective. Thank you for having me, Aiden.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. So looking at the numbers, recent research from the HR director shows that Australians are becoming increasingly uneasy about artificial intelligence, with 65% now saying it causes more problems than it solves, which is up 8% from last year. People's main worries include job losses at 14%, the loss of creativity and critical thinking, unreliable systems, environmental impacts, and the spread of misinformation and deepfakes. These growing concerns show that while AI is exciting, many are struggling to see the real benefits. For businesses, this is a clear sign to act. As AI becomes more common, companies need to focus on building trust through open communication, ethical use, and upskilling, and showing how AI can make jobs easier and more rewarding, not replacing people. This will be a key to maintaining morale and confidence in the workforce. And a workforce that feels supported and informed will be more willing to embrace innovation rather than fearing it. So are you being paid the right salary? You can check out 𝗵𝗂𝗵𝗆's new online salary guide to compare your salary against others in your industry and gain insights into Australian job market and be prepared for your next job interview. You can visit 𝗵𝗂𝗵𝗆's website for more information. And lastly, looking at our hot jobs. So we have a few positions here, a couple of them stand out here. So office administrator in Sydney, we have an instructional designer position in Sydney, and a paralegal in litigation based in Brisbane. So thank you so much for joining. Again, my name's Aiden Boast. I'm the manager for North Shore. If you want any insights from 𝗪𝗂𝘗, we'll provide some information there on neurodiversity. And thank you for watching, and I look forward to sharing another live stream with you in the future. Thanks.